The Galactic Council Summit was held in the most secure station in the galaxy, floating above a neutral star system surrounded by fleets from every major power. Inside, tension crackled in the air like a storm about to break. The Circathi Dominion and the Vernari Union had brought their finest diplomats, but their eyes held no warmth, only calculation and rage. Words were weapons here, sharp and ready, but everyone knew that behind those words stood entire armies waiting for a signal. Among the crowd, unnoticed by most, stood a human bodyguard named Mason Reeve, posted silently beside Earth's ambassador, Liana Morrow. He didn't speak, didn't move unless necessary, but his presence was unsettling, almost too calm. When a Circathi envoy suddenly lunged forward, pulling a blade made of collapsed plasma. But before anyone could scream, Mason was already there, grabbing the attacker's wrist, twisting, disarming, and pinning him to the ground in less than a second. The hall fell silent. Eyes that had ignored the human now stared in disbelief. One quiet motion had stopped a war before it began. And while the diplomats regained their breath, Mason simply stood up, brushed off his sleeve, and returned to his post as if nothing had happened. Mason Reeve was not just a bodyguard, and those who understood Earth's darker history knew that well. He had served in units that officially didn't exist, in battles no one recorded, on worlds where peace never came. After the summit incident, whispers about him spread like fire. Some said he was enhanced. Others claimed he had stopped a mutiny on Mars with nothing but a chair and a glare. While politicians debated and accused each other, Mason moved silently behind the scenes, studying floor plans, security rotations, and escape routes. He trusted no one, not even the station's guards, and for good reason. Someone had tried to kill 2 galactic leaders in a peace summit. Earth had only sent him to protect one person, but he was watching everyone. Behind his steady eyes was a man trained to solve problems before they exploded. And when he walked past alien soldiers, they instinctively stepped aside, unsure why. The galaxy didn't understand Earth's silence. On war, they mistook it for weakness. But Mason Reeve was proof that Earth didn't shout to be heard. It waited. It planned. And when the time came, it acted with such precision that entire wars could vanish before they ever began. 3 days after the failed assassination, the Council announced a new emergency summit, this time on a remote station orbiting a dying red star, chosen for its neutrality and isolation. It was supposed to be safer, but to Mason Reeve, it felt like a trap the moment he stepped off the shuttle. The halls were too clean, the guards too stiff, and the station's silence too perfect. While diplomats prepared for talks, Mason walked the corridors alone, scanning every detail. In the control room, a technician flinched when Mason entered. In the lower decks, he found a crate that shouldn't have existed, tagged as medical supplies, but reeking of antimatter coolant. Following a hidden cable, he discovered what no one else had noticed, a bomb large enough to vaporize the entire station. It was linked to a trigger set to activate once both delegations were inside the main chamber. Without panic, without calling for help, Mason got to work disabling the core with steady hands and a cold mind. He reported nothing. The summit would go on, and no one would ever know how close they came to death. But now, Mason understood one thing clearly. Someone wanted this war to happen, and they had planned every second of it. The summit began under high security, with guards lining the walls and translators humming in every language. But Mason Reeve felt the weight of something hidden pressing down on the room. He stood at the edge of the chamber, eyes scanning faces, fingers twitching with quiet tension. The Vernari and Circathi leaders had just begun exchanging hostile words, when the lights flickered only for half a second, but enough to confirm Mason's fear. From the ceiling, 3 cloaked figures dropped silently, weapons raised and aimed at both delegations. Before anyone could scream, Mason was already moving. In the first 15 seconds, he launched himself across the room, slamming one attacker into a wall with such force that his weapon shattered on impact. A second tried to fire, but Mason twisted the rifle from his grip mid-motion, redirected the blast into the floor, and dropped him with a single blow to the neck. The third ran, thinking escape was possible, but Mason had already recalculated. He leapt over a conference table, using the back of a Circathi guard as a springboard, and pinned the last assassin before he could reach the door. That was just minute 1. In the next 3 minutes, Mason disabled the station's security lockdown, rerouted emergency power, and exposed the hidden signal that had masked the mercenaries' entry. Every movement was precise, clean, and terrifyingly fast. When it ended, diplomats were still frozen in place, some with hands raised, others stunned into silence. No backup had arrived. No one else had fired a shot. It was just one human who had ended a full-scale ambush using nothing but his training and his body. As smoke drifted through the chamber and alarms faded into silence, all eyes turned toward Mason and none dared speak. The war had just been stopped by a single man. After the failed ambush, the summit chamber remained in eerie silence. No one dared to move until Mason Reeve gave a small nod to Ambassador Liana Moreau, signaling it was safe. The Circathi and Vernari leaders, who just moments ago were ready to declare war, now looked at each other with shaken expressions. They had both seen what a single human could do, not with ships or bombs, but with speed, skill, and absolute control. In under 4 minutes, Mason had not only saved them but destroyed any illusion that war would be easy or clean. The message was clear: if Earth was dragged into this conflict, the galaxy would face more than fleets, it would face individuals like him. Word of the incident spread quickly. Delegates whispered about the Bodyguard who fought like a machine and thought like a tactician. Some suggested he wasn't human at all, just a weapon shaped like one. In quiet corners of the galaxy, military commands were updated, and new rules were written. If a human bodyguard is present, do not engage. Mason said nothing through it all. He stood by Lana's side, quiet and alert, as if nothing had happened. But the galaxy had changed. The Circathi and Vernari agreed to a ceasefire not out of diplomacy, but out of fear. Peace returned, not because of politics, but because one man had shown them a future where war meant defeat before it even began. As Mason walked out of the summit, his shadow long behind him, no one knew his name out loud, but everyone remembered his silence. It wasn't just the war that ended in those 4 minutes, it was the belief that humans were just another species. The stars now understood. Earth didn't send threats. It sent warnings in human form,